This Kha Zix player has a 67% win rate in top challenger, so in this video I'll be showing you one of his games, so you can also get some juicy LP gains. You can see he's starting on his red buff here, and this is because he wants to path towards the bottom lane. He has a Draven who's probably gonna shove Zillion and Jhin into the tower, so he wants to be around that lane for counter ganks, and if they're ever low he'll be able to dive them. They're also prime assassination targets for a Kha Zix as they are quite squishy. Also, I'm not sure if you just noticed the pings that were on the bottom side jungle. This is telling us that Gwen started on the bottom side and she's going to be pathing towards top side because she got a leash from Jhin and Zillion. Also, I think already we can see what clear Kha Zix is going for. He's done red raptors and he's probably just going to continue to do a 5 camp wolves blue grom before heading for his crab. This is just your standard clear on Kha Zix because he's not fast enough to do 6 camps before the crab spawn. So this is what you'd be doing nearly every single game as well. So Kha Zix just finished his 5 camp clear and he's looking around his lanes right now to see if there's anything worth moving for as he waits for the crab to spawn. He is taking it now, and since there's nothing for him to really do, he's just going to drop a ward here in Gwen's jungle so that his Riven can continue playing aggressively. She just solo killed the enemy mid laner, and he's going to head for base because there's really nothing else for him to do at the moment, with Gwen being topside and none of his camps having respawned yet, obviously. So you'll see he's got to just come back towards his top side and continue his clear. Kha Zix starts up the Krugs, but as soon as he sees Gwen ganking his Gragas, he's on the move here to help out because he knows that if he can one-shot this Yone, that they can turn this 2v2 around. You can see he knows exactly what he has to do. He eases in, flashes in because he wants that 1v1 isolation damage. He's kiting it out nicely now against the Gwen. And you can see the reason he takes this in the first place is because Yone was low, he was in one-shot territory, and he has a 2 longsword advantage over the Gwen because he recalled after his clear. So you can see this is really nice counter gank from the Kha Zix, and this turns around the top lane a little bit because this would have been huge for Yone to snowball the game with. Anyway, you can see now that Kha Zix is pushing in this wave because he wants to help his Gragas get to base as soon as possible. He hits the minions, but he doesn't take them. He doesn't want the gold. He just wants to take a bit of XP. And you'll see now he's just going to return to farming his own camps. There's nothing for him to immediately respond to or proactively look for at the moment. Gwen's probably recalled and heading down towards her bottom side to restart her clear like Kha Zix has done here. So he's just going to continue the farm. You can see on the map here, Riven was looking for a bit of a roam and she spotted Gwen on Krugs. So this gives us a really clear picture of Gwen's just going to be pathing from bot to top again. And it's really nice here that she solo killed the Gwen. That's going to put her behind a little bit on the clear, and it's going to allow Kha Zix to get a little bit ahead. So you can see why he was placing vision for his Riven, because she can get a lot of things done to help him win the game. Here we can see the enemy mid laner really far up in the lane because he's pushing the tower. They're looking to collapse onto him, but of course he's just going to walk out towards topside. But Kha Zix here is actually looking for the crab instead of his gromp because he doesn't want to end up giving that away to the Gwen once she's back on her topside after her full clear. He wants to take this away from her because she won't be able to invade his gromp and take something back. You can see he just evolved level 6, he just hit, and he is looking for a gank on this Yone. Ulti comes out, Gragas ulti as well, and this Yone is going to be absolutely screwed. He doesn't tank the ulti there. Might have helped a little bit with pulling off that gank because he wouldn't get away as far. But this was a good gank anyway. He's chunked the Yone so far that he has to recall, and his Gragas will be doing quite good in this lane now. And you can see now he's looking for a recall instead of restarting his clear because he's got a lot of gold that he wants to spend right now. I think he's got a whole serrated dirk worth of gold and a longsword before he's going to head back towards the top side for his clear. With jungle tracking, we haven't seen the Gwen show up on the map for quite a while, but we know that she was a little bit delayed in her clear because she got solo killed by Riven, and since Kha Zix just took his red buff and Krugs, it would be about the time that Gwen's also gonna be back to her bot side for her clear again, just like Kha Zix is. So you can essentially match the timers of your camps towards the timers of her camps based on where she started. Here we can see that Riven is quite low in the mid lane, so I'm not sure if Kha Zix is looking for a counter gank here, or maybe he just wants to come in here and help Riven push the wave in so she can just recall. Yeah, he's just looking to push the wave in so she can recall. Soraka heals her up though now though, so she doesn't even really need to recall, and maybe they can look for this dragon with that priority they have. And you can see here Kha Zix being a little sneaky with the angle, but of course he's not really expecting them to just walk into him, so he's just going to return back to farming until there's a better opportunity for that dragon or some other kind of play. We just saw Draven die, which is a bit unfortunate, but looking at this Zilean, he's very low on health. So if Kha Zix manages to get onto him here and delete him, he's going to be able to easily 1v1 the Jhin. So you can see he's going exactly for that play. He's really using that stealth to his advantage so that they can't hit him. Zilean ulti has timed out now though, and Soraka is here with him for backup, so this should be an easy 2v2, at least 1 or 2 kill pickup, and nice, Riven's coming in here as well, so that's going to be Zilean flash forced, and he's just going to pick up that Jhin by himself. So now this should open up the dragon for him. Being level 8, this should be really easy for him to take solo, and Riven can just return back to her mid lane to catch the wave. And then there's no possible contest from the enemy team because Gwen should be topside, and we just killed the enemy bot lane. So really nice play there from the Kha Zix, and he's just going to go back to finishing off his Gromp here before, I assume, recalling for full item and going back towards topside. You can see Kha Zix has picked up his Prowler's Claw this game. He's running First Strike as well, because in this kind of a game where the enemy team doesn't have much CC for you and they're all relatively squishy, this is a prime game for Kha Zix to really carry by one-shotting everybody. We can see here that Kha Zix is on his Raptors instead of his Krugs when he's returned for the clear, and I'd assume he's doing this because he wants to go to Herald after he clears this out to use his mid and top lane priority to pick up that Herald and potentially look for a first tower break somewhere on the map. So you can see he just picked up the Herald and a play is going on in the top lane here. Gragas is diving Yone with Soraka for backup, so he's going to show up here and he's going to join the action, because if they kill this Yone, who's walking into the Kha Zix in the bush right here, oh no, maybe Kha Zix is going to get outplayed here, but thankfully that Soraka heal does save him. Unfortunately, he nearly did get outplayed there, but the dive was executed, I suppose, and they will be able to take this tower now, which is a lot more valuable than if he just went and farmed his Krugs, Raptors, and just continued clearing. You can see Kha Zix only summons the Herald at around 2.5 plates, because at 2 plates the Herald just instantly breaks the full tower. So you can see there it is, and he's heading to base straight away because he wants to be back on the map and healthy with his gold spent and stronger than before. You can see on the map he's going back towards his top side here because he's got more camps spawning up on top side rather than bot side, and there's not really any place for him to look for right now anywhere on the map. After taking red buff, you can see Kha Zix heading straight towards the top lane. We can see Yone is really far up in the lane because they did break his tower, so he's got a lot of room to run back towards his own tower. So Kha Zix is looking for a pick here. There's also a crab here you can just pick up here with the smite Q. Absolutely one-shot that crab. You can see Assassin Kha Zix is very strong. And he's just going to continue looking for the Yone here if he shows up. Is there a Gromp in Gwen's jungle that he can maybe steal with the Gragas priority? He's basically looking for any play that he can, but since there's nothing available, he's just gonna hit this blue orb, give some vision for his Gragas. We can see Gwen's coming in for her own gank now, and this is why it's really important to be around when your laners who are winning lane are pushing. But of course, it's not a fight he wants to join in because there are 4 people there, but here we can see Jhin alone in the mid lane, no Zilean for ulti. Look at that Prowler's Claw. nearly one-shots him, but the Jhin does get out there with all of his summoners and Gale Force. Kha Zix does have to flash to stay alive because of his bounty, and so he's just going to return back to farming his own jungle here on the bottom side. Dragon is spawning soon, so instead of heading towards his top side to pick up his raptors and krugs, he's going to be looking for a play with his Riven here on the enemy mid laner. Really nice that Gwen is coming here for her own gank and Kha Zix is here to counter. That Gwen is doing a lot of damage. Unfortunately, they do trade 1-for-1, which isn't exactly worth it for his team because he did give up a bounty. Even the Soraka heal couldn't save him there, but I think they'll still be able to get the dragon here because his Riven is really stomping the enemy mid laner at the moment. She's a lot stronger than him at the early stages of the game, but it's going to be a little bit scary when that mid laner, that Vladimir, does get his 2, 3, 4 item spike. They do get the dragon here, so they've got 2 now, and they're halfway there towards the soul win condition, which is really nice with this being the Hex Tech soul. It's going to give them a bit more damage in these fights. And you can see here Kha Zix is running down the middle lane. He's not really looking towards his own jungle because now at this stage of the game, we're in the mid game and you've got to start grouping up a bit more with your laners. Now in the mid game, your laners who have won their lanes are going to be pushing other lanes, trying to destroy towers. So you've got to be around to hover them in case they get ganked or collapsed on, so you can turn it around. But you can see since his Draven and Soraka are pretty much at their own tower, he has enough time here to take his raptors before coming to group up with them in the bush here, sweeping so nobody knows that he's here. And he is going to come in here with the ulti. He's ignoring the Yone for now because he's going to return. W does find the Jhin there, and that damage is absolutely insane. He is one-shotting that Yone, does force his flash. And this was exactly why you have to be around your laners who are pushing lanes, because you've got to be around to turn these kind of scenarios around. Kha Zix just cleared out his jungle. There's nothing else to farm. There's nobody to hover right now. So he's going to look for a reset here to finish his second item. You can see he's ignored his Krugs because you've really got to be around for these fights that go on in the middle lane. He spots the Jhin ulting, doesn't even suspect the Kha Zix coming for him, and he does pick up the trade there for his Soraka, which is really nice. Zilean here again in a bad position, does get found by that Kha Zix with the Prowler's Claw, really nice. And that's a 2-for-1, which would have just ended up as a 1-for-0 if he wasn't around to turn that scenario into his favor. And now with this, he's going to have that top lane prow, he's going to have Riven pressure in the bot lane, and there's just no way that Gwen could contest this Herald, this being 1 versus 2 for her. So this is really nice from Kha Zix, and this is because he was around his teammates in the mid game. Kha Zix can see Gwen looking for the crab here, and Kha Zix being Kha Zix, he's obviously going to use his ulti here. Prowler's Claw is going to go in for that one shot, waiting for that Q to come back up. He does hit the crab there instead of the Gwen, so he does die, but this would have been a really nice play for him if he actually hit the correct target. But you can see the really nice intention from the Kha Zix there, reading that she's looking for the crab and ulting in prematurely to find her while she's doing that crab. You can see that Gragas is pushing the bottom lane in. The dragon's going to be spawning in soon. So Kha Zix is looking for a play right before the dragon because he wants to be in a good 5 versus 4 scenario for this dragon. His Gragas is getting collapsed on by the whole enemy team. So instead of joining in, grouping up with his Gragas, he's going to look for an isolated fight here over onto the Jhin and the Zilean. But of course, he can't really 2 versus 1 them with that Zilean ulti and slow and everything that they have up. So it's a bit unfortunate, and you can see the enemy team is starting to come back into this game because they have really strong scaling, and his Gragas has been feeding quite a bit in the side lane. So let's see how Kha Zix can turn this game around, if he can even in the first place, because you can see this Vladimir is scaled up now and Riven's not having the same pressure that she did earlier on in the game. Herald is about to expire, so Kha Zix is of course going to drop it in the middle lane here, and he's just going to hover his teammates because he wants to be around if there's any action going on. At this stage of the game, when everyone has around 2 or 3 items, that's when jungle camps become really worthless, because having components like an extra longsword isn't really going to do much for you at this stage of the game. It's more so if your teammates get caught out in a 4 versus 5 while you're farming your Krugs, you're going to lose the game and you're not going to be able to do anything about it. So Kha Zix is swapping his focus here a lot from farming his own camps. You can see he's just leaving his Krugs, Wolves and Gromp left open there because he wants to find a pick here and maybe start up the Baron with his teammates. He's using his Draven for bait maybe, and he's going to sweep around for vision of course, and he's just going to continue looking for a pick. But if there's no one around to pick off, he will look for his Krugs. You can see playing the vision game, he sees the Jhin walking in towards the bush. He's just being very, very patient here, being a Kha Zix player, using Fog of War to his advantage. And now finally we found an opportunity to find a pick. You can see Jhin was farming here by himself in the middle lane. His teammates are all around. Nice job sidestepping the zillion bombs. And this is a huge pick from the Kha Zix. W slow, trying to get his teammates in here as well. He knows that the zillion is split off, jumps onto him. He's not afraid there. Using that W slow again. He's being very conscious of the cooldowns. And Vladimir is coming in from the side. He does let the Kha Zix live here. Kha Zix is playing this nice and slow. He knows he can't be just jumping into 4 players. He's looking for isolated fights. He's looking for good opportunities where he can pick someone off and then move around. And just like that, that patience from the Kha Zix has let them get 3 kills. They've made all those picks, and now this is going to allow them to start up the Baron. So you can see he could have just continued farming his camps, but here he is making plays, trying to win the game. Now you can see here again, after the reset, he's grouping up with his teammates. He wants to enable them to push towers, and he wants to play the vision game here in the enemy jungle to find some picks. You can see Riven's putting the pressure in on the bottom lane, forcing a rotate, and unfortunately his Draven is just sitting around in the jungle with him for some reason. They need to get these lanes in, get this vision control, and pressure the enemy team. We can see half of the enemy team here collapsing onto his Gragas in the top lane, and he sees this as the opportunity right now to go and pick off that Jhin. Zilean isn't around with him to help keep that Jhin alive, so he runs in there instantly. Ghostblade, ulti, jump, Prowler's Claw, he uses everything to find that pick. Riven's finding this Yone here as well. Kha Zix is coming in, he's looking for the action. Riven does thankfully solo kill him. And just like this, now they've got a one-man advantage at this stage, and they can play for this inhibitor. Kha Zix greeds so hard right here, trying to get the Hex Tech gate to get out of here. But thankfully, it's kind of working out in his favor. He's baited a fight, he's made the enemy team use cooldowns, but you see his Draven has fallen, and it's not exactly the fight that they want to be looking for, because they should reset around now. They're biting off a little bit more than they can chew at this stage. They've got a bit of gold that they could spend, and they could play for that top lane tower and inhib and try to continue suffocating the enemy team. So you can see Kha Zix with that Hex Tech gate move is really baiting his teammates to int quite a bit. You can just see how strategic this Kha Zix is with his map movements. He's always walking around in the enemy jungle with his teammates where he knows they don't have vision. He's sweeping it out, and he's constantly looking for a pick on the Jhin who's alone, or this Gwen who is alone in the top lane. And this is really big for his team. Now they've got a man advantage, and they should be able to maybe close the game out here 5 versus 4, but they do have quite a bit of wave clear on the enemy side, so maybe they won't. You can see Kha Zix is looking for the side angle. He's not looking to be right with his teammates. He's doing a bit of a bait here, some funky Kha Zix moves, maybe a little bit of ego on this Kha Zix player. He does have a 67% win rate in top 100 EU West. Riven there looking for the Vladimir. He does force the flash, and Kha Zix here, you can see he's playing it very nice and patiently. He's just looking for W poke, and he's not going to be going in until he sees somebody low enough that he can one-shot and he can actually still stay alive with. You can see W poke there as well, setting up for the teammates, and they are slowly suffocating the enemy team. That Gwen pick was huge. Kha Zix really cautious here in the backline, jumps onto the Yone, Yone returns, Gragas completely misses his ulti, and he's just zoning this Jhin and Zilean away from the fight. Like, his teammates are just taking a 4 versus 2 here because he's got so much pressure on this Jhin and Zilean. He knows he's strong. He's got 4 items. If they step up, they're just dead. And you can see they are suffocating really nice. You can see as soon as the Gragas finds a nice engage there, he comes in, and that is an easy triple kill for him. And that is exactly how this Kha Zix snowballs a game to victory. So I hope you learned a lot in this video and found this one useful. This Kha Zix player is absolutely insane, and you can see this is exactly why.